Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning to you all. Sorry about the couple of minutes delay. We're just checking on a couple of rules from voting with the quorums and things, but we're under control, so we are right. Just to start off with, apologies. We do have apologies from Bass Coast Shire Council, councillors and CEO Paul Buckley, Gannawarra Shire Council, Councillor Brian Gibson and CEO Tom O'Reilly. Are there any further apologies? Did you get that, Joe? Any further apologies? Thank you. Okay, if we could have a motion accepting those apologies, please. And it is the delegates that are listed. You are the only ones that are in the position to vote. Thank you, Jen. Move, seconder. Thanks, Marianne. Speakers against, I'll put the motion. All in favour. And I am the delegate for Hindmarsh, so if you see me waving, it's that I'm voting. Item 2 on our agenda of the annual meeting is conflict of interest. Does any delegate have a conflict of interest of any item that's on the agenda? No. Item 3 on the agenda is the confirmation of the previous minutes, 2017 annual general meeting that have been circulated. If I could have a motion confirming those minutes. Thank you. If you could just call out or... Second up. On the minutes, is it? Okay, thank you. Anything coming out of the minutes? Thank you. If not, I'll put that to the vote. All in favour? Against is carried. Financial statements, 2017-18. Anybody that has perused them, and if you do have questions, Joe, I'm sure will be able to answer them for you. So, yes, if you could just identify yourself and just for Joe's benefit.
Thank you, Councillor Gersh. My name is Councillor Lisa Massimo, Shire Council. Just had a few questions, really for clarification, if that's okay. First and foremost, I wanted to commend the RCV for the work that they've done in the last 12 months, and it's an extraordinary quality and volume that's been delivered in the last 12 months. So thank you very much for all of that work to many of the teams that have worked over the last 12 months. Just a couple of areas of clarification. I can see that we're obviously in a bit of a deficit this year. So in terms of financial sustainability going forward, and perhaps it's for another agenda item, so please excuse me if it's not appropriate later down the track. Would you perhaps give the group a bit of an idea in terms of the financial sustainability going forward, perhaps with the election submission? If you could offer us some more information about that.
For those that don't know, Joe Shannon is one of our secretariat and one of the backbones of RCV, along with other people, but Joe's in the hot seat today. So, Joe.
Thanks very much, Councillor Gersh. Good morning, everyone. So thanks very much for that question. Probably two elements to that. If I speak first to the deficit that RCV is reporting for the year ended 30th of June. The deficit there primarily relates to the timing of when RCV receives its grant payments from Regional Development Victoria. So going back a couple of years ago, there was an election commitment for $3.5 million to go towards Rural Councils Victoria to commit to delivering a range of networking opportunities, research projects and other things to improve outcomes for rural communities and rural councils. So the timing of those payments over that period of time determines effectively the final result of RCV in each financial year. So you'll see in the results there, last year we were reporting total comprehensive income of $637,000. That reflected some payments from Regional Development Victoria in the latter part of the financial year that have been expended in the 2018 financial year. So that accounts for that. Effectively, RCV is just expending the RDV funding that is received as and when it comes in, and then it has its advocacy program that's funded through the member fees that are paid by each of the member councils. So that's the first part of the question. The second part of it is about the ongoing nature of it. So the current funding agreement finishes next year, so mid-next year, and we will have received all of the $3.5 million that was committed in the last election campaign. Part of the latest election platform, which I'm sure many of you will have seen, and there's a copy of this in the pack. There's a range of asks for rural councils, for rural communities, and for RCV. And one of the platform items is about securing an election commitment of $3.5 million for the next 4 years to continue the work that RCV is doing for rural communities. So that's something that we need all our members to get on board with and to assist with advocating to get a commitment from government or from both parties about ongoing funding for the work that RCV does. So does that answer your question? Yep. So a number of elements there. First, if I speak to the Secretariat services. So about 2 years ago, RCV, when it was established as an incorporated entity, the committee conducted an expression of interest process for a rural council to provide Secretariat services to RCV. I wasn't involved at that point, but as I understand, there were a number of submissions received, and I prepared a submission on behalf of Tauranga Shire Council and submitted that, and there was a process that involved 2 committee members from RCV and a representative from Regional Development Victoria to interview those applicants, and Tauranga Shire Council was successful in securing a contract to provide Secretariat services for a 3-year period. So that expires in June next year, and that is an upcoming agenda item on the next month's committee meeting to look at what happens after that point in time. RCV has had a focus of building the capacity of rural councils, and we have been endeavouring to get or to find opportunities to build that capacity in other rural councils. One of the means that we have used for that is by seeking expressions of interest from our member councils to actually take carriage of certain projects and certain submissions to government to build that capacity. And we have had limited success with getting our member councils to put submissions into that, to be frank. And there are a couple of councils that have put their hands up to assist with this. I can't think of the exact ones off the top of my head, but some councils have, but where we're unable to get another council to take the lead on a particular project, the Secretariat has picked up that work. So we do have a focus on building capacity in rural councils, and I would encourage you, when you see those requests for assistance on projects or to take the lead on a particular project, to ensure that your council considers the opportunities that can come to your own organisation by participating or being involved. Yes. Speaking to Jason's point, going back to the Secretariat contract, so it's a 3-year contract and it's about $150,000 per annum is the fee that is paid to Tauranga Shire Council under that contract. What that, maybe to explain a little bit more about what that actually looks like on the ground. At Tawong, we've employed, with those funds, we've employed some additional resources to particularly economic development and communications to be able to assist with organising events such as today, doing our communications with our newsletters and other forums, developing advocacy campaigns and project managing the various projects that RCV is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Just a quick one there. When RCV really came on board, the government, to their credit, put in $3.5 million, and because RCV wasn't an incorporated body, we couldn't get the money, so that's where the MAV came on board, that they were the auspicing body. We had no problems with the MAV. It was reasonably expensive, but nevertheless, we did have a good working relationship, and we still do. We hold our meetings there every month, so we naturally have a very good working relationship with the MAV, but it was felt by our members that we should have more autonomy, and that was the reason that we put the feelers out for a small rural council to come on board, and we are very pleased the way it's turned out, and under Juliana as CEO at Toowong and Joe and 2 or 3 of our other secretariats, we've been very, very fortunate in the ability that they have and to represent you all here today. Any further questions on the financial statement? If not, if I can have a motion adopting the financial report as circulated, please. You're right there. Okay. Yes, you must be the delegate to be able to vote. Any speakers against? If not, I'll put the vote. All in favour? Against is carried. Thank you. And the annual report of 2017-18, and again, I won't read this out. It's all there for reading. It's an excellent document. It brings everybody out there that doesn't have a full understanding of RCV up to speed, and I compliment the staff on putting this annual report together. So are there any questions on the annual report?
I just wondered what the group felt. Can you hear me? What the group felt just going forward, perhaps setting, and this might be premature, but just good to test the waters around putting some key performance indicators or some key program initiatives with timelines so that we can get a sense of urgency around some of the initiatives, and perhaps then we can look at the way that we time our own projects back within our own councils, how we might support those to meet some consolidated timings.
Fair point, but I think by the time the forum's ended today, we do have several speakers on some of the projects we're going through, so I think that will explain some of the projects we are looking at, but point is taken.
Thank you. And just a minor one around stakeholder engagement and communications. We'd love to have more of it, so whatever we can do to help facilitate that, whether it's perhaps reaching out to our regional committee member or getting that person to come and speak to us more often. We'd love to hear from them more often, and particularly the quality of the work that's come out. We'd love to have that hit our desks as soon as it's out there, and I think sometimes we're just missing it, whether we're missing an email or not getting onto the website in a timely manner. So perhaps letting us know what we can do more to receive that information and get it into action back at our councils back at home. Thanks.
Thank you. Also on that one, we are working on a roadshow at the moment that we will be coming to all councils as a whole, because it's okay today where you have the delegate or the CEO, but what we need to do is get to all our council laws, so we are intending to do that in a very short time. So your point's
Thank you.
well
I
taken.
really appreciate that. And actually, one thing from our group of councillors was around recording board and committee meetings and how many committee members are actually attending. So we do that as councillors in our general annual report, but just a thought going forward if you wanted to show that to your members.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions on the annual report, if I could have a motion accepting the annual report and adopting. Got those, Joe? Are there any speakers against? If not, I'll put the vote. All in favour? Against is carried. Annual subscription 2018, and it has been the recommendation from the RCV board that the subscription fee remain the same of $3,000 plus GST. So if somebody wishes to move that or an alternative, we'll take that. So you're moving that the subscription remain at $3,000 plus GST. Do we have a second up? Mitchell? Thank you. Are there any speakers against? No speakers against. I'll put the vote. All in favour? Against is carried. Item 7 is proposed changes to the rules of incorporation, and I think if anybody has had dealings with rules and constitutions, when it comes to changing them, you can get tied up with words, etc. But the board did spend a lot of time looking at some of the changes just to tidy things up. Now, in this case, we must have 3/4 of delegates to support, and we do have that number. 28 is the break-even number on that, and we do have over 28 delegates here, so we are able to carry on with the proposed change to the incorporation. So it would be my intention that we deal with this as a block, but if you have any questions or we need to vote separately, we will do that. So do we have any questions on the proposed changes to the rules of incorporation, or I'd accept a motion that the rules be adopted?
Sorry, I've just got another little question. It's about the minimum number of meetings that committee members actually attend. I note that don't think that's specific in the new rules of incorporation. So is this something that we could deal with perhaps later, or that as a group we don't feel as required just at this point?
Help me out, Joe. Please.
You're correct in saying there's nothing in the rules about the minimum number of meetings that a committee member needs to attend. There is a provision in the rules that if a committee member does not attend 3 meetings in a row without a leave of absence, that they will cease to be a committee member. So from a secretariat perspective, that's something that I keep an eye on to make sure that our committee members are attending and that they are meeting that requirement. I recognise that perhaps some of that could be improved and made more transparent in the annual report. So I think that's a good point that you've made. With respect to adding something into the rules at this point, I'd prefer to take that as on notice, and we consider that in the next round of changes to the rules, if that's okay with you. Yep.
Thank you, Joe. Any further questions? If not, if I could have a recommendation, please. Thanks, Marianne. And Rob, over the back. Are there any speakers against the change of all the rules and adopting in one block? There's no speakers against. I'll put the vote. All in favour? Against is carried. And thank you to the board members that put a lot of time into this work, and our secretariat. Item 8 is general business. We don't have anything in writing, so unless somebody had a real pressing issue at this stage, that would be the close of the AGM. We're not in a position to to take motions if it's not here with us. So if there's nothing there, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attendance of the AGM. We are striving very hard to represent you, and I will have more to say when we get going in the forum.